Hi and welcome. In this video I'm going to be starting a small remodel of the toilet area in our owner's suite bathroom. In this video I'm going to be using the leftover shiplap that I had from the previous bathroom project. So the plan is to just do the back wall with shiplap. So first step will be to move the old toilet, remove the baseboard, prepare the wall to know where the studs are. And I think I'm going to try to get it as tight to the edges. So I think I'm going to be making some kind of jig, I think, similar to a stair jig in order to get the pieces perfectly fit. And if I like the look, that'll be the final look. And if I don't like the look, then we'll put a little bit of molding in the corners. So I'll get started with that. So here's the before. First thing is to turn off the water, and then drain all the water. And then I'll remove our toilet seat cover so I can remove the 2-sheet bidet attachment and then disconnect the water from the toilet. So the toilet seat, and then we have the bidet here. So there's still a little bit of water in the tank. I'll try to drain that and then disconnect the toilet water line. So I've drained pretty much all the water out of there. So now I'll just disconnect the water and let whatever's left drain out. Now I'll remove the bidet attachment, and certainly going to give that a good cleaning before attaching it to the new toilet. So just remove that to start with. Set that aside. A little bit of water coming out of here, so good idea to have a towel handy, an old towel. And now we'll remove it from the toilet tank, and there'll still be a little bit of water there, so I have this container to hold the water. Okay, so now coming out of there. Oh, it's still blocked by the valve, so we're good there. So next step will be to remove the toilet. So I'll just remove these decorative caps. Do it for both sides. It could be removed by hand, and then remove the nuts holding the toilet down. And then the second remove. Next will be to lift up the toilet. Just rock it a little bit. Seems like they had put some caulking around it. So let's just see what we can do here. Okay. So it's nice and loose. So I'll remove the toilet. I'll put on a little bit of dolly to save my back, and then the toilet will be out of this toilet area. So now I'll carefully lift the toilet and put it onto the dolly. And easy to wheel it away now. So now we'll have to remove all the old wax, and as I said, they did caulk around the old toilet, so I'll scrape all of that off. So let's start with the wax ring. Remove that old wax ring, which is a little bit disgusting, but not too bad, especially if it comes off in a big chunk. And then scrape off all the residue that's left. This house is only 5 years old, so the ring itself is in good shape, so won't have to replace that. Just want to clean this all the best I can. I'll get some rags after to do the final cleanup on it, and then next will be to scrape all of this grout, which won't be too bad. So I'll just finish all of this off camera. So I've got some crud cutter adhesive remover and some brushes. So I'll try that first, and if not, I'll get something stronger, but let's start with that. We'll spray it all, let it soak a little bit. Okay, so I'll let that soak for a little bit, and then do some scrubbing, and I should be able to get it all off. So with a little elbow grease, you can see that it's coming off just fine. So I'll just finish the rest of it. The next step is to remove the baseboard. I'm going to see if I can get it away, but just removing the back one. If that doesn't work out, then I will remove the side ones. The first step is just to score the edges. To break up the caulk. Okay, and let's try to remove it. Not too worried about breaking it. I have others that I can replace with new. Probably be easier to break it up, I guess. So I'll just continue with this, removing all the back baseboard. Here's the baseboard removed from the back wall. What made it a little bit more difficult is the builder, in all their wisdom, puts the baseboards before the flooring, so that makes removing baseboard much more difficult. Makes their life easier, but ours difficult when we want to do any kind of renovation. We've also decided to remove the baseboard from the side walls also, as we want to put the more modern look, as I did in the powder room, if you look at that video. So I'll get to that next. So now all the baseboard has been removed from both sides. So next step will be to mark up the wall to see where the studs are. So I've got two methods to find the studs. One is a stud finder and the other one's a magnets. So let's see how this goes. So definitely one over here on the edge. One around here. One right here. Can do that in a few places just to see. Right around here. Second method is to use a magnet. See, this is where a screw or drywall nail is. So that method's pretty accurate too. Often I prefer this method, but So now I could just run a line from ceiling to floor, and that's where I'll be nailing in the shiplap. So I'll continue with that step now. So I've marked 3 lines from ceiling to floor. So that'll be where the nails will go into the shiplap. So for this back wall, the measurement is around 41 inches. As I said, I'd like it to be fairly accurate. I'll see if I can get as close to the walls as possible. So I think I'm going to make a jig that's adjustable so that for each piece I can get it as close as possible. This will be similar to what people make jigs for stairs. So I'll go in the garage and make that. Here's a completed jig for this project. There'll be another video that you can see if you want to see how I built this. Traditionally, this would be a design for treads on the staircase, but in my case, I'm using it for the do perfect measurements for the shiplap on this rear wall. So you'll be using it like this. I'll probably use a level to make sure it's level, and then you adjust the 2 end pieces to fit the wall snugly. And that way, with this being level, these should have the perfect angle if the walls are not perfectly straight. Then you can just take the jig out, bring it to the shop, and cut each shiplap piece the perfect size. So I'll start with the first piece on the bottom, and then we'll go and cut the pieces and work our way up. So now I'm going to measure for the first piece. I'll just stick this on the wall with it loose. I do want this to be level. Looking pretty level. Press this against the wall. And that should be the first piece. Take this into the garage and go cut the first piece. So now in the garage, I have my jig set to the width that I need. Next, put it on here, try to make it pretty parallel with the piece. And I think that looks pretty good. And then mark the 2 ends. Then I'll go cut it. Now for the first piece, because my ceilings are 10 feet, I didn't want the top piece to be too small. So I'm just going to cut about an inch off of this piece, or maybe half an inch. And then that'll be the first piece. So let me cut the 2 ends and then rip an inch off of this piece. And then we'll be ready to put the first piece in. So now let's test fit the first piece. Now notice this product can be put on one of 2 ways. One edge has a bevel, and that would be traditional shiplap. And the other one has a straight edge, which is considered nickel gap. So we like the nickel gap, so that's the way we're going to be putting it on. So let's see about getting this piece in here. Nice tight fit. I guess maybe just a little bit too tight. I think no. Just due to the drywall here, maybe I could scrape a little bit of that away. First piece in,
And of course you want this to be level, which pretty sure it's not right now, so I still need to get this side down a little bit into some of that grout is causing it to be an issue, but okay. So now that's a little bit too low now. And now that is perfectly level right there. Use safety glasses, of course. And for each one, I'll put 2. These are 1 3/4 brad nails. There's the first piece. These holes I'll be filling in later, and everything will look really good. So now we can measure for the next piece. Now the water line is there, so I won't be able to get this down there and perfect, but let's loosen these up a little. Get it as perfect as it can there. Try to get that level. Tighten that piece. Tighten that piece. Looks good. So we'll get that piece cut, and then I'll have to do a slot here because this can't be removed. So we'll have to do a slot and then fill it all in. So let me go cut that piece and bring it in and measure for the slot. So just need to mark for the water line. So here, can definitely make a hole bigger because this will cover it. As long as it's smaller than that. And then I can measure from the bottom to there to make the other marks. I think the walls being not so straight, I think I'll probably end up having to put molding there. It's pretty hard to get these things in there. But anyways, let's get the measuring tape. Measure. So go like 1 1/4. 1 1/4 to 2 1/4 will be okay. Just go 2 1/4 to here. I can maybe drill a 1-inch hole and then just cut it. So I'll go in the garage and do that. Okay, so I drilled the 1-inch hole and then cut 2 straight lines to get that piece. So that'll go over, and then this piece will fall in. I'll glue that one into place. And then after I'll have some filler, and you won't even notice it. So let's see how this fits. Okay, so got that in there. Make sure it's in the groove properly. Still level. That looks good. It's not bad, but I think I'm still going to do the 1/4 round there. So let's just nail that in place. So you get this piece in there. That piece fits in there just fine. Just have to get some glue to glue it in there permanently. So now I can just continue. I'll just do a little bit of a lapse as I go, but overall it should be just a repeat till I get to the top. Here it is after day one, doing the whole thing. Top piece had to be cut a little bit. So now the next step will be to do some molding. So I'm just going to have a small strip at the top to go to the ceiling and some quarter round on each side. Even though I did a pretty good job, maybe I could fill it with caulk, but I think the quarter round molding will be good. And then the baseboard. And then we'll be filling in all the nail holes and get it ready for paint. Next step in this project is to do the baseboard. And as mentioned before, the builder had done the baseboards before the flooring, so there's a gap there. So I have choices. If I put regular baseboard and there's a gap, I'll have to fill that in with a grout-like caulk. The other option is to fill it in. I would probably, because it's so small, I wouldn't bother with tile, just all caulk, and then this could go on top of it. And third option would be to get a thick baseboard, like 3/4 of an inch, and for the most part it'll be covered. So I think I'm going to first try to fill it in with grout and see what it looks like. So I'm ready to apply some grout. I did put some tape just to have minimal cleaning after I'm done. So let's just add a little bit of water. Just do a little bit at a time. I don't have a really good container. Then we'll put in the grout. Mix it up. Put a lot of water in there. So I think that's good. I can start applying the grout. So I'll just continue this on both sides and then show it when it's all done. I finished applying the grout to the sides. Both sides done. Now I'll just wait overnight for it to cure, and then I'll start on the baseboard. So I'm just going to patch up the side walls with a little bit of damage that I did, and then paint it. I finished touching up the side walls with accessible beige paint. Now I'll start with the baseboard. I was debating whether to do 45s here, but I think I'll just do lap joints because they're like squared edges. So for this piece, I could still use this if I want to, or just measure. It'll be the first piece, so it doesn't really matter that much, but let's just get it in there. And I'll go in the garage and cut the first piece for the baseboard here. So the baseboard is 5.5 inches. I think it'll go below the line. If not, I'll have to notch a little piece. So I've got the notch put in there, so let's see how it fits now. I think that's good. So now just nail it in. Same place as before. Just have to knock that one in a little bit better. And now we're ready to measure the side pieces. So it's about 66 and a half. Try the other side too. And that's about 66 and a quarter. So let me try the 66 and a half first. I've got a perfect fit on the side. So definitely one's there. Anyways, for here, I don't think it really matters. Have the right side in there, fits nicely. So we can start nailing that one in. Okay. One there for sure. So next we need two small pieces for the corners here. Here, so 2 3/4 and 2 3/4 and 2. So let's go cut those. Here's a small piece on one side. I beveled the edge because the casing around the door is thinner. Same thing on this side. So now for the top here, I can do that, but I think I just want it a little bit smaller, so I'm probably just going to do it just to cover that crack. So it could be around 3.5 inches just to cover this one crack. So I think I'll go from 3 1/4 this side to 3.5 over here. So let's go cut a piece. Can definitely see the ceiling was not level. There's an angle there a little bit.
Here's a top piece nailed in.
So measure from top to bottom. It's about 1 11 1/2. It's about 1 in 11. So let me just cut them rough and narrow it in the size. 1 in 11 and a half and 1/11. So I've cut 2 pieces to rough lengths, and I could add it here and then make a mark so I could be pretty accurate here. Do the same with this one. So I'll go cut them and then install them. Here's the quarter round pieces. I'll start from the top. And work my way down. Same with the other side. And then I'll continue to the bottom. All the baseboard and molding is now complete. Next step will be to do caulking of the edges and filling of all the nail holes. For filler, I'll be using this D.I.Y 3-in-1 premium wood filler. I've used it before, it works really well, easy to sand. So I'm going to start adding the wood filler to fill all the nail holes, starting from the top and working my way down. After that, I'll do the caulking. As I go, there may be some that I'll have to use a punch to get it below for the most part. The nail gun should have done the trick, but some of them may not. So I'll have to nail that one in. So anyways, I'll just continue all the way down and show it when it's done. All the nail holes have now been filled, so I'll just wait for that filler to finish drying. I'll sand, and then it'll be time to do some caulking. Sanding is completed now. I just have to do the caulking. Something right along the ceiling there, and then the top of the baseboard.
All the sanding is completed, and now it's ready for the first coat of paint. Two coats of paint has been applied, and all the tape has been removed. I think it looks really, really good.
So now I'll install the new toilet. I've already put the wax ring on it. I bought a new one because you can't reuse them, and I bought a thicker one also. Now I'll flip the toilet over and install it carefully. Line up those holes. Make sure it's nice and straight. Press down. Looks good. And we'll add the hardware. So have this. Make sure you put it on right. The washer. And then the nut. These new bolts are pretty long. I'll probably have to cut them, but we'll see. First one hand tight. plastic piece on first, washer, and the nut. And then we can start tightening them. It looks nice and straight. It's pretty solid. As I suspected, I'll have to cut these bolts. So let me get a hacksaw to cut them down. Just going to cut them down with these bolt cutters. It should work fine. Otherwise you could use a hacksaw, of course, but this will be faster, I think. There's one. Two. Plastic cutters. Snap on into place. And that part's done. So now we'll do the tank. So the first thing is take the bolts and put the rubber washer on, and then insert that into the tank. And then one washer, and then a nut. Tighten it by hand, and then do a half a turn with the wrench. Do the same with the other one, the rubber washer, and then install the bolt. Metal washer. One of the nuts. Get it finger tight first, and then roughly a half turn to tighten it. Make sure this is tight, but mine was. So next, put in the gasket over this part of the toilet, on the tank, and then we're ready to put it on the toilet. So make sure you have the front and back, which is easy to tell. Lift it, line the holes. Now, on each side, put a washer and a nut. And the other side, washer, and nut. And then we can tighten the nut. So I did the final tightening with a 1/2 inch socket wrench, and it says tighten until the little porcelain pieces touch the tank to the base. So now it's nice and solid. The new Tushy bidet came in today, so I'll just connect up the water to it. So the bidet goes on first. So a little bit of adjustments here. I think that'll probably be good. That. Then I'll get the toilet seat. And then the bolts, toilet seat, and that on the bottom. Get the other side. Plastic nut on that side. Just eyeball the toilet seat, make sure it's in a good position. We can tighten the bolts. That looks good. Then we can turn on the water. Make sure there's no leaks anywhere. And then we can flush the toilet. This has a soft close toilet seat, which is a nice feature. Can't really test out the bidet because it's going to come out here. He's sitting down. And there we go. So here's the cover for the tank. And if everything looks good, don't see any water leaking anywhere. For anyone's interested in this new toilet, it's made by Toto. The model is Drake. We got it at Costco online. You can see the action of the flushing is like a tornado around the bowl. So I can just flush it. This is actually our 3rd toilet of the same brand and model, and we really like it. So this now concludes the small remodel of this toilet area. Mainly it was to do this back wall using some of the nickel gap boards that I had in my previous project. This was left over, so just thought I'd do this for a little accent wall. Redid the baseboards, and I think it turned out pretty good. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.